Welcome to our tutorial on setting up a simple workspace for a CSS grid project. In this tutorial, we will be creating a basic HTML file, a CSS file, and set up a simple workspace for our project. First, we will create a new folder for our project. Name it whatever you want and inside it, create two new files, one called index.html and the other one called style.css. Next, open the index.html file in your text editor and add the basic HTML structure. This includes the doctip, head, and body tags. Here's an example of what your HTML file should look like. The Live Server extension is a simple development server that allows you to see your changes in real time as you make them, without having to manually refresh the browser. Search for Live Server and click the Install button. Now open your Live Server by right-clicking your index.html file and selecting Open with Live Server. CSS Grid is a layout system for creating two-dimensional grids. It allows you to control the position and size of elements on a web page, making it a powerful tool for creating responsive designs. To get started with CSS Grid, you'll need to create a container element, and then define its grid layout using the display property. Here's an example of how to create a grid container. Next, you'll define the rows and columns using the grid template rows and grid template columns properties. For example, to create a grid with 3 equal width columns and 2 equal height rows, you can use the following code. The FR unit stands for fraction, and it is used to divide the available space into equal parts. Let's delete the element class from the other divs. Once your grid layout is defined, you can place elements on the grid using the grid row and grid column properties. These properties specify which row and column an element should be placed in. Here's an example of how to place an element in the first row and first column of the grid. Now change your index.html to contain two elements. Now in your CSS, select the second element with the nth-child selector and give it a different layout. CSS Grid also provides several other properties that allow you to control the spacing between rows and columns, and align elements within the grid. For example, the grid gap property can be used to add space between rows and columns, and it accepts values for the row gap and column gap. The align items and justify items properties can be used to align elements within the grid. These properties accept values such as start, center, and end to align elements along the row or column axis respectively. By using media queries, you can change the grid layout based on the size of the screen, making it easy to create designs that look great on any device. Here's an example of how to change the grid layout when the screen width is less than 600 px. By using the techniques and properties we discussed in this tutorial, you can create a wide range of grid layouts for your web projects. Remember that CSS Grid is a relatively new technology, so be sure to check for browser compatibility before using it in production. It's also worth mentioning that CSS Grid works well with other layout methods such as Flexbox, and you can even use them together to create more complex layouts. If you have any questions or want to learn more, be sure to check out the official documentation on the W3C website. There are also many tutorials and resources available online that can help you deepen your understanding of CSS Grid. Thanks for watching. We hope you found this tutorial useful and informative. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below.